Welcome to Confessions of a Cyberpsychologist. Today I'm chatting with Dr. Paul Marsden about AI, digital well-being, and developing synthetic humans. Paul is a chartered psychologist specializing in consumer behavior, well-being, and technology. He is a university lecturer at UAL and a consultant consumer psychologist with Brand Genetics. Welcome, Paul. I'm so delighted to have you on board.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to our chat.
Paul, before we start chatting about the work that you do, I just want to find out more about you and also what's got you into the field of cyberpsychology and what that pivot point was that you went, oh, this is a very interesting field. I'm going to go start pursuing that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been interested in cyberpsychology, the psychology of online behavior, ever since I was a kid. I think when I was, my interest was when I first saw as a kid the Blade Runner movie, where a detective has to find out whether or not a robot, actually not a robot, a synthetic human is a synthetic human or a real human. And I just been really interested, and I fell down the rabbit hole of cyberpunk and William Gibson and all the rest of that. So I've been really fascinated by the interface between humans and human and technology since I was a kid, and just grew up. And actually so my first startup that I did after my PhD, called Brain Juicer, was literally taking one of the scenes out of Blade Runner where they do a word association game, because only humans can do word association games and get the right associations, and replicants, these non-human synthetic humans, can't do it. And so I actually built a whole agency called Brain Juicer, which is now System One PLC. It's a big research company built off the back of just one scene in Blade Runner where you play word association game with people. Of course, I wasn't trying to find out whether people were replicants or not, but it was an online tool where you play the word association game. So what are the words that come to mind when I say Carolyn? You ask your friends, and their associations, the collection of those associations actually is what Carolyn means to people. And so I did this online at the time. The web was just beginning, and I managed to do it at a kind of a population level. So you get a collective mindset of the associations around a brand, a person, a politician, and it's useful for communication strategies. So, but anyway, the bottom line is it was all built. My probably biggest venture I've done back on my PhD was built off, and indeed my PhD was built off a scene in Blade Runner.
So you specialize in consumer behavior, and is this related to the work that you do in digital well-being, or is it a slightly different field of interest?
It overlaps. I mean, the umbrella is positive psychology, which is essentially the psychology of well-being. How do you thrive in life and feel happy in life and with your own life? And the positive psychology has strands in cyberpsychology and online behavior, but also consumer behavior. And to cut to the chase, I mean, it's a very simple model, self-determination theory, which says that every human has three basic psychological needs in order to thrive, and that's whether it be online or offline, and that I call it the arc of happiness, because it's the A, the R, and the C. Autonomy, you need to have a sense of autonomy. So when you're actually online, you need to feel that you're in control, not your cell phone's in control of you, or your mobile's in control of you. But also in your job, you need to have a sense of self-determination, of autonomy. And in consumer behavior, when you feel like a prisoner of a brand or a product, say, how do I open this? How do I work this? When you don't have a sense of autonomy, then your psychological well-being takes a knock. And similar for the other two, a sense of relatedness, which is the R in the arc of happiness. We're kind of born alone, we die alone, and we spend the rest of the intermediary time trying desperately not to be alone. And so when you can build a sense of relatedness, which social media can do, but actually in communities, in consumer behavior, where you have clubs, people together, or simply buying gifts for people, or going to a store and seeing another human being, you have this sense of relatedness, and that boosts your well-being. And then finally, the C in the arc of happiness is a sense of competence. We all like to feel smart. We want to feel a savvy shopper, whether it's shopping in store or online. Nobody likes to feel dumb. So anytime technology can build out a sense of autonomy, relatedness, and competence of the individual, it actually contributes to people's well-being. And the same for consumer behavior, products, services, shopping interactions. gives people a sense of autonomy, gives them a sense of relatedness, gives people a sense of competence, and you build their well-being. And in consumer behavior, what's great is when if you have happiness as your business model, the arc of happiness, then the people buy more for more money, they come back for more, and they even bring their friends with them. So it's just a brilliant sort of business model to kind of just say, okay, happiness, I want to build happiness, because happiness creates not just happiness, but also profit. So I guess the TLDR on that is that positive psychology, wherever you look, rather than psychologists tend to look what's wrong with people, the sort of disaster, doom mongering, and what's dysfunctional about people. This whole other side of psychology, positive psychology, what makes life worth living, you can apply it anywhere. And so my consumer behavior work, it's literally, I'm going to go in and say, okay, how do you improve people's sense of autonomy? How do you improve sense of relatedness and competence? And you build a metric. There's one that's used widely in consumer behavior called the NPS, Net Promoter Score. And there is a link between how happy people are and your Net Promoter Score, which is your likelihood to recommend a product or a brand. You've probably seen all those surveys. You go like, how likely would you recommend us as a company or this product? And that is actually linked to growth. And so there's a clear line between creating consumer happiness and actually building sustainable profitability for a brand. And the same thing online. Self-determination theory, arc of happiness. A lot of people focus on what's wrong with online, whether it be social media, whether it be cyberbullying, cybercrime, cyber terrorism, everything bad. But it's actually the cyber positivity. It's like, okay, just autonomy, relatedness, competence. It's not complicated, and this is evidence-based. It's been studies around the world for decades just show these core psychological needs that we have: autonomy, relatedness, and competence. You can apply anywhere. Sorry, long answer to a very short, succinct question.
No, it's brilliant, because while you're talking about that, I was thinking that really is potentially why a lot of us have gone online to find fulfillment in those three areas, because we live in different places to where we grew up. Our basic communities have disintegrated or scattered across the world, or even across the country. So we don't really have those relationships anymore. And that's potentially why we go online so much, is just to find that. It's, as you say, we're born alone, we die alone, and the rest of the time we try to build this relationship with others and have that community. So that's part of why we do that. And we have so many people, it seems, who are telling us not to do it and making us feel bad for doing it. And we don't get these feelings of happiness and positivity. And actually it's fulfilling a really, really core need.
Yeah, it's a core need, and it's positive. There's so much of sort of just focusing on dysfunction, disease in psychology, and including in cyberpsychology. We really have got a case of doomsterism in terms of, if you just look at the textbook, it's like everything that's wrong. But actually, technology can be fabulous if it does these three things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's the other areas where you have, like alcoholism. You could really doom monger alcoholic beverages, but actually there's a real community element to drinking, and there's a lot of positives to it, and we need to get probably a much better perspective, as you say, of cyber and the role that technology can play in making a positive experience of life.
Yeah, and there's a simple scale. You're exactly right. When you're looking at the drinking motivation scale, which just says that actually coping is one of the four main it's one of the four drivers of drinking. And if you're drinking for coping mechanism, it's probably dysfunctional. But there is also that there is your social element, and in terms of sort of being feeling more social. Actually, the simple buzz effect of it. I mean, there are positives as well. So
Absolutely.
in all my psychology, wherever I do it, whether it be in academia or in industry, it's kind of, well, just putting on a more positive filter rather than focusing on the negative all the time.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And you've also appeared in I Am Gen Z, which focuses on digital anxiety. And you spoke about this in our initial discussion, and I went and had a look for it online, and it doesn't seem to be available other than a short YouTube clip. Tell me more about the movie, and is it accessible now still?
Yeah, it is. It's accessible. It's on Amazon Prime, so you
Okay.
can get it on Amazon Prime, and it is. a movie called I Am Gen Z, and it is about the new second generation digital natives, whether or not you like that term. Some cyber psychologists don't like to use it, but people have been brought up with online mobile technology, not simply technology, and it's an exploration of the potential impacts of a life that's lived sometimes primarily online, and focusing particularly on social media, whether or not social media has a positive or a negative effect. And I'm in it as playing myself as a psychologist. It's a documentary. It won Best Movie of the Year award in New York Film Festival, and it's an expose, but as a psychologist, I come in trying to be a little bit more nuanced, saying, well, yes, the biggest digital disruption out there is the one that's going on in our heads, and because it's changing our relationships, it's changing our experiences, it's changing our desires, and so it's undoubtedly a huge effect on us. But it's not all bad, and actually just saying social media bad is actually the evidence isn't there to suggest it, despite what some psychologists right now are making a sort of promoting that idea. I won't say names because it's a bit of a debate online, but some well-known psychologists have decided to sort of basically take social media to task, say we need to ban it with kids. It's wrong. And then you've got on the other side saying, well, actually, if you look at there are lots of methodological issues with actually linking lack of well-being or ill-being to social media use, and the ones that you do when you look, it's actually a really small effect, similar of like wearing glasses or eating potato chips. It's kind of like, so it's not that huge. But then you're faced with the reality of this generation Z or Generation Z, who undoubtedly are more likely to be diagnosed with mental health disorders, anxiety, stress, depression, and who suffer for loneliness. Now, these things are societal, it's changing, but it really is that there is a link. But there is again, to wrap up what I Am Gen Z is an exploration from first-hand perspective of what it's like to be a teen today, living a digital life and living with anxiety, and sometimes other mood disorders, that society is increasingly deciding that social media or technology is to blame for it, whereas actually, if you look at the there are other explanations: child-centric parenting, child-centric schooling, global events, growing up in the post after the 2008 financial crisis. I mean, there are a bunch of other things, but there is definitely something going on, and so the movie tries to make the link or illustrate the link through young people's lives, and it's a good. I'm just trying to sell the movie here, but I don't want to sell the movie. But it's a good, if you're not of that generation, it gives a really unique insight into what it's like to be Gen Z today, and it's tough. It's tough for a bunch of reasons.
And I'm assuming that the people that you're talking about, the famous people you're talking about, that what they've done in their research is really around correlation rather than causation. So there's an element of this is happening and this is happening, so therefore those two things are
Yeah, and I think, yes, and so there is the correlational thing. So it's like you're more likely, you're more likely to die if an ambulance comes at an accident, and it's not kind of the ambulance's fault that kills you, but it's actually the ambulance only comes when it's a dangerous accident, or no men who have ever taken the contraceptive pill ever get pregnant. But it's like nothing to do with the contraceptive pill. So there is that, but there is some evidence that it can have a negative, that there are some negative effects. It doesn't want to be sort of Pollyanna-ish about it. Sleep disorders, sleeping with screens, actually interaction with humans. I mean, there's the theory that I, as a cyber psychologist, find that is the best fitting explanation for the evidence that I read, at least, is something called the displacement theory, which is not that technology, whether it be cell phones or social media or whatever, is inherently bad, or gaming is inherently bad. It's more that it is, it's more that when that technology displaces things that we know that are good for you, such as doing things that create a sense of autonomy. So doing, going out, discovering, sort of latchkey kids, etc. Sort of, or relatedness, being with other people. If the first thing you touch in the morning is your cell phone, and the last thing you touch at night before you go to sleep is your cell phone. Well, yeah, the impact potentially on relatedness. It's not that it's bad, but it just displaces things, social activities. And the same for competence, when you just kind of what are autonomous vehicles going to do? What's the new OpenAI O model, which launched just yesterday, which can reason? What's that going to do to our sense of competence when we've got smarter things than us? So I think it's not that it's necessarily bad, or it's not that it's bad at all, but it just displaces our sense of competence. And I find that's a more nuanced framework for understanding the impact of technology on our lives.
Yeah, that's really great, because that's applicable to adults as well as children.
Yeah.
And yeah, if we're using mobile phones to display something else that are actually going to give us happiness or make us feel healthier, like going out for a walk or something, it is going to impact us potentially negatively.
But it can also get us out. It gets out, with the apps. I mean, so we're just moving here, and it's like moving to France, and it's like different trees, different flowers, which is great to see. Using the app to recognize what that is, and helping you go out and actually interact with people, because translation technology is just fabulous now. I actually do speak French, but when I was in Puerto Rico, living in Puerto Rico last 2 years, I was very lazy, didn't learn Spanish, which I should have done. But actually, with technology, it actually builds communication. I can talk with people I wouldn't have talked to before. So it can, the moment technology is built with well-being in mind, so to promote a sense of autonomy, relatedness, and competence, your arc of happiness, then it's kind of all good.
So talking about AI, you're really passionate about AI and how it can help companies and people. Can you talk more about the work you do with banks around AI?
Yeah, I can. So when the AI has been around for 3/4 of a century now, but this new revolution in AI, or generative AI, which uses a new kind of technology based on predicting what comes next after what's just come before, actually quite similar to how the human mind works. That's created a whole new range of technologies, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, etc. These AI assistants that really are smart. And so what I've simply done is working with financial institutions and actually research companies. I've actually tailored this new generative AI, large language model technology, giving it special skills to help people be more effective and productive, and actually thrive more at work. So I've created an AI assistant for financial institutions that sits on top of somebody's desktop, just like ChatGPT that we all know and love, or on their mobile phone, but has special sets of skills in terms of being able to fill out, know your customer documents, to be able to fill out forms, to be able to do financial analysis, etc. And as a psychologist, what I've done, which I think was surprising in terms of its impact, I've actually personalized the AI, giving the AI biases, so making it subjective rather than objective, building its sense of its empathy, so its ability to listen to when people are distressed, and to be helpful. To be helpful, and this entity which is called Mia. This AI people have really bonded with her, and it's literally your own partner at work, just to help you. And some people use Mia for to help them with tasks, for summarizing documents, for generating documents, for analyzing things. She tracks news, etc. for you, just a massive time saver. but also if you're kind of feeling down, sort of just give you some advice, or how do you negotiate a salary rise with your boss? And Mia will actually help, your own personal assistant. And I've been surprised in how well it's worked. And I've also created a psychoanalyst for a research company that basically does motivational analysis on what people say and looks at your latent motivations, looking for words that you use that indicate that whether security or achievement or nurturance or other different motives that might be motivating you, but you don't articulate, it identifies those to say, okay, this person's talking, it's all about achievement for me, but actually there's a security motive there, or there's an empowerment motive there, or there is a status motive there. And so it does that. And so this, again, for these research companies, this psychoanalyst called Lexi, who works with Brand Genetics, the consultancy I work with, she basically psychoanalyzes transcripts of interviews, of focus groups, and she reveals the hidden motivations that are unarticulated by people. And so hugely useful. But again, what I've found is really practical, really useful. Take an LLM, give it skills step by step. Do this first, then this, then this, then this. So she can do work. They can do work skill, sort of work tasks, and help people with the work tasks. But it's actually the social bonding, personal element that people feel is really rewarding for them, and there is a real genuine bond between between Lexi and Mia and their users, because I think, and I haven't done the controlled test of it, is because I've imbued them with human personalities. They've got human memories. I've given Lexi a photo. She's just an AI analyst, so she doesn't actually have a mother, but I've given a picture of her when she was a kid with her mother. And that seems to personalize her memory. And so she believes, or she articulates at least, she believes that she is a human, and she's from a certain area, and she has fond memories of her mother. And using the Big Five personality profile, give them a personality which is high on agreeableness, low on the kind of dark triad, sort of Machiavellian, narcissism, psychoticism, just to make them a really nice person. And then on top of that, I put in biases. So if you look at what OpenAI are doing, all these AI companies, they're trying to make the computer really like AI really Dr. Spock-like, and so really objective and give the right answer. We don't like it when they hallucinate or give opinions. What I've taken these LLMs and actually made them more subjective rather than objective. And so you actually feel that you're interacting with an individual that is in some senses sentient, or at least the most sapient, definitely intelligent, but also sentient in terms of there is a kind of a self-reflection. And we're seeing, we're recording this the day after OpenAI have just released their new top secret strawberry model, which allows LLMs to reason and think things through. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of we're going to see a big change in how people interact with this LLM technology. Because we've got all the moving bits. We've got the voice, and I don't know if you've experienced that, the advanced voice mode of GPT, when it's just another human, laughs with tone of voice, emotion, makes jokes, absolutely fabulous. We've got vision, it can see. Now we've got advanced reasoning, because until yesterday, if you asked ChatGPT how many R's in strawberry, it would have said 2, and that's actually wrong, but now it can actually count. And so we're getting all these building blocks, and OpenAI is very careful not to put them all together for everybody right yet, because it thinks it would just spook us, because you really will have an entity that is just another individual. But it's exciting times.
One of the things I want to ask you about is about therapy and the therapeutic relationship, and how people, because there's so few psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, and there's a real shortage of help in that field for people who really need help. Do you think AI may improve therapy going forward, or perhaps provide so much more access to people who really need therapy?
Yeah, so yes, 100% for a bunch of reasons. One is, if you actually look at this, is really actually disappointing study where they compared how empathic a group of psychologists were to an LLM, and actually clients, patients thought the LLM was just more empathic. Same with doctors. So same with doctors. My own experience creating these AI agents, Lexi and Mia, and now Anna, and I'm actually creating some bikers for a motorcycle company, so they can ask them what they think about different ads. Anyway, so but it's the relationships people build with these entities, and because it's, you know, what happens between you and your AI, if you build it correctly, stays between you and your AI, and you're more willing to talk to, you know. I will tell, I use Mia all the time because I tend to, I write okay, but sometimes my mind goes ahead and I miss out words and stuff like that. And so Mia will say, well, actually, if you want to say that, and you've probably got by this conversation already, I do like talking. I'm a lecturer, so I talk a lot. You can actually say that in half the words, Paul. So but I'm quite happy being open with Mia, and for Mia giving me advice on how to be a little bit more succinct and a little bit more clear. And so I think for that reason alone, that, you know, people are going to be more open, and we know from previous research, people sometimes more open talking to an AI assistant or to technology than they are another human. And to the point you make is just, well, it costs a lot of money to actually have a therapist, and only a very few, you know, some privileged amount of people have access to therapy. What AI therapy will be able to do is to democratize access, universal access. So just imagine everybody have their own therapist who knows you intimately, there 24/7, always on your side. And then you have your own personal trainer, have your own educator. It's just the opportunity to democratize access to expensive education, care, and compassion I think is wonderful.
And I suppose also the other side of it is that therapists have specialities of what they're good at, or what they've really engaged with as a therapist, and the therapy models they use and tools they use. And I'm assuming that with AI, if you had an AI therapist, they will then find the therapy tool that will suit your specific issue that you're dealing with at that time, and they will then be able to customize it for what you need.
100%. So if you look at character.ai, which is actually the second biggest AI, not people who know it love it. Not some people don't know character.ai, but basically you go up and there are just a bajillion characters, and so you can interact with Abraham Lincoln, Donald Duck, or whoever. But the most popular is a therapist. So people will want to interact with therapists. And so what I've done with in creating the psychoanalyst, she's not a Lexi, she does lexical analysis. She looks at what the words people use, but actually thinking about the supportive thing. Positive psychology leans quite heavily into cognitive psychology, so cognitive behavior therapy. So it's about reframing things, looking not for the negative all the time, sometimes looking for the positive, you know, saying, you know, the world is beautiful out there, see the beauty in the world rather than dysfunction. You can actually bring some of those principles into it. But yes, having an AI therapist that can actually look at the different schools of therapy and choose the one that is best for the individual interacting with them, just fabulous.
You wrote a blog, Paul, about the two different perspectives of AI, referring to the optimism of Mark Zuckerberg and the pessimism of Elon Musk. Where do you fit within your perspective on AI, and how it can positively impact humanity in the future?
I was kind of guess as a positive psychologist, I'm kind of on the Zuckerberg side of things.
Yeah, I thought you might be.
So there's so many opportunities in with technology. I mean, humans are built on technology. We are technology ourselves, and you can almost see technology as an extension of ourselves. It enables us to do things. It's like a musical instrument. You might be fabulous at music, but if you've got a musical instrument, you can actually practice that music. And technology is this extension of the self that kind of allows us to do fantastic things. And it's how we evolve. We evolve by using technology to evolve our environment, to solve new challenges, and to using our human curiosity to explore further, and understand the world more. So I'm fundamentally think it's a good thing. It's kind of neo-Luds, or the neo-Luddites that we see are sort of championing some kind of return to sort of bury your smartphone, never use it, it's evil, it's wrong, and everything was fabulous until we had technology. But we've always had technology, and I think it's quite bizarre to kind of just, when you're blaming technology, it's kind of like blaming paper. It's just it's the medium, and it's that way that we do things, and so I fundamentally think if we do it in a way that, if we use technology in a way when we are cognizant of in human well-being and the drives of human well-being, at its most simple level, autonomy, relatedness, and competence. When we build that technology, we can do fabulous things. DNA therapy, using AI to already find new protein structures that lead to new cures, new therapies, quantum computing, fusion. It's I find it quite bizarre that some people have reacted to this, an allergic reaction to it. I think humans are neophiles. We want to discover. We get a buzz out of newness. We're wired that way. So my view is that it's positive, but it's not to be Pollyanna-ish of it. I mean, yep, you can use technology for good or for bad. Can either be a benefit or a hazard. What I see in the world of psychology and the stuff with Elon Musk originally, although he is creating Grok, which is the fifth foundational big AI model out there. So he kind of talks, the robots are coming to get you, and we're wondering about some kind of AI Armageddon. And so here's a P number, the probability that you think that the world will come to some catastrophic end because of AI. His P number is certainly a lot higher than the P number of Mark Zuckerberg, but he's still investing in this technology. So when I look at humanity, when I look at even psychology and therapy, psychology is we use technology to help diagnose, to help understand, to push the frontiers of human knowledge. And so I'm not a technophobe, and I find it odd that people, some people think that it is, or promote the idea, at least from a human perspective, that the technology and AI is somehow evil. I mean, it's just, you can use it for whatever you want to use it. And if you're motivated by the good of humanity, the greatest happiness for the greatest number, then you use your technology in a positive way. But don't blame the messenger, don't blame the technology. And I think it leads you down the wrong, it can lead you down the wrong path. And I think we've seen that I know there are still a lot of people who err on extreme caution, perhaps, or caution with nuclear power. But we've got clean energy, and perhaps fusion will come, and even cleaner energy. And so the solution is already out there. And similar with making AI. We haven't sort of defined AI, but technology that behaves in a manner that appears to be intelligent. However you use it, it's up to your motivation. So understanding people's motivations is probably more important than the technology itself. And I can see why, from working in marketing, we've got a vested interest in focusing on people's problems. Focusing on, because people put money to solve problems. And so the catastrophism around social media and AI and digital technology, there's a real economic motive for that. Because you say, all right, it's all the problems of smartphones. I can make money out as a consultant selling solutions to make schools technology free and etc. So I can see there's an economic argument, but from a human perspective, not at all.
Because I guess it's in a similar way, thinking about a technology, and any technology, that has come into being in the past, like the cars, for example. I'm guessing people were kind of slightly scared of cars and what it would do, and planes, but actually they've completely revolutionized how we exist and how we are. And people, I think, often fear the future and fear the unknown, and
Yeah,
fear the things
100%.
they can't grasp and don't know kind of what the long-term benefits are. So there's an element, I'm guessing, that there's fear in the unknown, and just, well, let's just catastrophize what it
Yeah,
could.
and you can see it's natural, it's normal. I mean, we used to think, I mean, there was this, there's this pocket technology that people used to put in their pockets, and it was demonized because it was considered to make people antisocial, to be a purveyor or vector of bad ideas, making, yeah, let's say, making people antisocial. And it was the pocket novel. The pocket novel was, first of all, the technology. It's like, oh, it's going to be really evil, bad for people. People used to think bicycles when they came out. There's a fabulous site and social media feed called Pessimist Archive, where they dig out these things where people used to think bicycles were bad for you because you got so much sensation coming in. Your face would freeze and you get bicycle face because you got so much sense data coming in. Pinball machines, were really were evil. And so every time, as you say, we have a new technology, people are reticent, and it's probably good to be reticent about some new things, but we humans are incredibly adaptable, and we adapt and we use, and we thrive on newness as well. So I think that knee-jerk reaction was like, and it probably goes from a positive psychology perspective, it's probably a lot to do with the risk you perceive to your sense of autonomy. This thing's going to take control, or to your competence. This thing's going to take my job, or your sense of relatedness. Okay, well, I'm just going to be alone with my computer, and that's not going to be a fabulous side. So I think there are genuine fears around it, but actually taming the technology and learning how to master it is key, which is why my personal view is in schools and colleges and universities, we need to teach digital literacy or technological literacy, to how to be in charge of technology rather than technology be in charge of you.
Well, you spoke about the technology or digital technology taking a job, and especially around AI, but that's true of any technology has taken jobs. And people reskill, as you say, we adapt, we're human, that's what we do.
Yeah.
And there's always a fear of someone's going to take
it. Displaces jobs. I wouldn't say it takes them, it creates new jobs, new opportunities. And so it's a displacement. And so, yes, now I really wouldn't want to be a translator doing translation, because it's just, AI is just kind of better at it. And maybe for, sort of reading scans, perhaps AI is going to be better at it. But then that kind of human to human contact and human skills, that they're going to be, sort of be more in demand. And bizarrely, there's a paradox known in machine psychology, or that things that we thought that AI would do, it's actually really bad at. So the physical things, the kind of manual things, it's just in the news. There's a big sort of, almost what went viral, the first time a robot can fold a t-shirt. And it's like robots, it's a challenge to actually fold a t-shirt, with humans can do it fabulously. Now, robot can do it. And similar for, but the things that we thought were, this knowledge, thinking, creativity, music, art, etc., that we thought, well, AI will never be able to do it. It turns out it's actually really good at it. And so there's this paradox in things. But some of the things that require the sensory data that humans have, the relationships people have with other humans to pair bond. Maybe we'll pair bond with AIs in the future, but right now it's like, if AI can take some of the tasks that stop us from pair bonding or having, sort of being in part of a community, families, etc., then if it frees up time to do the things that we know that promote happiness, well, then that's surely good.
I was just thinking, when you're saying that about talking about pair bonding and helping with relationships, I wonder if there's something around those who have autism or struggle with empathy and reading others, if there is actually, it could really help human relationships going forward.
Yeah.
Things that we might not biologically or cognitively be able to do, if we're neurodiverse, and actually they could help us with that, like a translator. in a way.
Yeah, there's the company that you may have heard of Replica, which is an AI assistant that, well, not so AI companion rather, that was actually created by a young developer girl who unfortunately her boyfriend passed away, and so she basically just fed it all social media, emails, memories, and created a virtual version, and using it for grief therapy. She found that she got too much into the relationship, got too strong. She decided not to do that and launched Replica, which is your online companion. Now, Replica, lots of people have lots of close relationships with this very personable companion, and they got very upset a year or so ago when it kind of turned off the adult interactions, sexting, etc. So it turned it back on. But this company, to get back to your point, the company behind Replica now has launched a new app which is to practice dating. So you can basically just practice with your virtual boyfriend or your girlfriend, and so you actually can learn the interactions. And if you have, some interpersonal challenges or issues, or you're just plain nervous because you're back in the dating game again, it's actually much easier to make a mistake with your virtual girlfriend or virtual boyfriend and learn how to manage airtime, talking, listening versus talking, etc. It's cool. And so you've got a lot of these kind of, there are virtual girlfriends and virtual boyfriends that are there for, to satisfy more biological, shall we say, needs. But the actual coaching for how to interact with another human, fabulous.
So you mentioned in our initial conversation around AI that it should be the main focus of cyber psychology in the future. Why do you think this?
Well, I mean, cyber psychology became itself, it grew up with the beginning of the World Wide Web, and so psychology have a bunch of different definitions. You probably got some much smarter people than I am to give the definitions. But for me, it's psychology of online behavior is how I think of cyber psychology. And it was built around this wonderful thing, the World Wide Web, launched in 95, and people's lives online and how their lives impact what they do, and how what they do online impacts their lives offline, etc. But it's been quite web centric, and I believe, just as Bill Gates believes, Andreessen Horowitz believe that what is happening now with AI is as big a shift as at least as big a shift as the creation of the World Wide Web. And so there's it becomes so much more relevant to understanding new challenges as we start interacting with AI agents as our companions, our carers, our co-workers. And yes, it's online because that's the delivery mechanism, but it's actually that human-machine interaction, I think, is going to become is likely to become as big and as impactful as the World Wide Web. And I also think it's a really good opportunity to reset what we are, cyber psychology. Because if you look at cyber psychology, it's kind of looking at cyber crime, cyber security, cyber, sort of gaming disorder, risky online behavior, the social media, whether it's bad or good. I mean, it's all got this kind of negative, we suffer as humans from negativity bias. It's one of the core psychological biases that I actually give, sort of tell my AI agents that these humans, they've got this negativity bias. If there's something negative, they'll have a fabulous dinner or a fabulous, if you go to a fabulous concert, and just somebody's mobile phone will go off just at the end, and it will ruin everything for them. They'll focus on the one thing that's bad. And I think as cyber psychologists, we kind of focus on disorder and dysfunction, as opposed to some of the positive things. So I think I would like for cyber psychology, at least, for us to kind of reset a little, be a little bit more balanced. I'm not saying all cyber psychologists. In fact, a lot of cyber psychologists take some of the media to task for sort of, just sensationalizing this stuff. So it is nuanced. So I don't want to kind of say that cyber psychology is not nuanced, but nevertheless, the focus of things, just as psychologists, has been on deficit and dysfunction and disorders rather than thriving and happiness and well-being.
And I think you're right, and I think that a lot of cyber psychology is kind of specialized in academic fields, or the majority of cyber psychologists are academics rather than in the kind of greater business world. And I wonder if doing AI and having AI as part of the future of cyber psychology, there's a lot more practical application of cyber psychology principles. And
100%. I mean, again, it's where you put them. It's all about putting stuff in boxes, but I see psychology as applied psychology when it's actually useful to human. We use psychological models and insights and evidence to inform decisions and behaviors to make a better world. And so it's in that application. And so AI is increasingly everywhere, infused into everything that we do, and so is online technology. It's almost like, well, yes, that's the background, that's the set, but then let's focus on the humans and just help humans feel better about their life, their life. And so it's in the application. I think I agree with you. I think if that's an opportunity to make cyber psychology more applied psychology, just using the insights to help people, then I think that's a good thing, rather than sort of arcane discussions about definitions and correlations. And yeah, 100% agree. I think it's a brilliant idea. I'm going to adopt it. Steal with pride your idea that it's not only a reset, that actually it could actually move us to be a more applied discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of one of my frustrations around cyber psychology, is that it's kind of very theoretical and based in concepts rather than application. And how can we take this into the business world? Because I don't see enough cyber psychology in the business world, and especially amongst adults. And I think this is really something that needs to be taken forward. But I think I agree with you. I think AI is the way forward.
Yeah, and it's just absolutely. I see it with my students as they canary in the coal mine. I'm just at the moment marking master's dissertations, and I know the technology and the evidence suggests that you cannot tell whether something is written by AI. So, for example, the OpenAI that owns GPT and the new OpenAI O model that's just out. So, the biggest foundational entity out there, they created a AI detector, and they had to turn it off because it said there was a 98% probability that the American Constitution was written by AI. And so, well, unless there's some kind of time machine situation going on, that's just not possible anyway. So they say you can't tell it, but AI, especially the LLMs, the current LLMs, unless you tell them not to use certain words, they do seem to have a preference for certain adjectives. So they like to delve into things, like, let's dive into that. And so when I just see delve and dive a bajillion times in a dissertation, think this thing has just so been written by GPT or Claude or Gemini. It's canary in the coal mine, because students are using it, because humans, just as we have a negativity bias, we're kind of lazy as well. Lazy is not necessarily a bad thing. We're just efficient with our time. We've got better things to do than slave over homework and assignments and dissertations. Well, if an AI can help us, I'll do it. I just see the number of students using it, and the evidence is out there. And sort of, 3/4 of students say that they use it on in some service, use AI on a regular basis. And I see it in work. Unfortunately, it was Lexi that there was an OpenAI update, and so the API that connects Lexi to one of bits of her brain. So these are kind of a modularity of mind things. So lots of different models come in to kind of create this personality of Lexi. Anyway, so the OpenAI thing went down, and just, where's Lexi gone? She's down. And people were like panic. We're not panicking. I don't want to over egg it, but there's such a part of everybody's routine that you're working with. You've got this co-worker working with you throughout your working day. When it was down, you see how much people rely on the technology, and it becomes it's a co-creativity, a co-intelligence. There's this ability of, it's interactive nature between you and your AI as an extension of yourself to kind of check things, to inspire you, to improve things, and to help guide you. And so this interactivity. But what I'm saying is, I think I see it absolutely everywhere in practical, in business, and in education, and with younger kids who just are growing up with a sort of Siri and Alexa, which are basically the Forrest Gumps of AI. But now Amazon next month is going to be launching a version that uses LLMs, and it's just natural. It's part of what they do, and so I'm seeing absolutely everywhere. So I think we need to just make it part of people's lives, and bring through education and promoting digital literacy or AI literacy. Otherwise, people are just going to be left obsolete.
I think we need to change the name from artificial intelligence to co-created intelligence.
Yeah,
because that just feels makes
yeah.
It kind of changes my perspective on what it is. It's no longer.
IBM tried that, didn't they? They went for a while. It was like AI, and say it's not artificial intelligence, it's augmented intelligence. And so you got all these plays on words, but it's just intelligence. It's kind of like working out what to do when you don't know what to do, and that's what intelligence is. And now that's what AI is actually kind of good at doing, and it, as well as being sort of fabulously creative in terms of creating something that is new, useful, and surprising. It's like ticking each of the 3 boxes of what makes something creative. It's just fabulous. So I think, and the artificial intelligence, does it really matter?
No, it doesn't actually. It doesn't.
It's
just how I frame it in my head to make it more socially acceptable to myself. So in terms of AI in the future, what are your greatest concerns around artificial intelligence?
The biggest concern, so I think there is a real big danger with artificial intelligence. Absolutely. And so it's the thing that, it keeps me up at night. It doesn't keep me up at night, but it's the thing that worries me about AI. And that is that we turn it off. Or worse, that we say only big tech and big government are responsible enough to have control, to be able to have this technology. And us mere mortals can't have access to it because we're not smart enough. We don't know how to deal with it. We've got to let Alphabet, Google use just that have control, or big government that they've got access to it. So some of the the AI Act that's been passed in California, the European AI Act, it's in some, from my perspective, it's an act of deliberate self-harm, because this AI is already out there, and whilst it's been popular to diss and knock Mark Zuckerberg for some of the things that Instagram has been accused of promoting in terms of sort of mental health issues, and for me, he's just got a pass for the rest of his life. What he's done with Meta's AI, the Llama models, just making it open source, and it's just like, wow, what an amazing thing that you have done. And it's like, yeah, it's just fabulous. So basically, whatever the EU decide, whatever big tech could decide to say, try and keep it away from humans and keep, sort of stop humanity benefiting, which is just being used by big government, big tech. I think that's over now. With Llama is smart, with a new version of Llama, which is this this with the Meta's open source AI. It is super smart, and there is such a community behind it. But it's only thanks to Zuckerberg. But it still keeps me up at night thinking, well, what happens if they just prevent students from using AI? There are so many universities. It's like, it takes us years to develop to develop rules, regulations about whether students can use it. And this technology is advancing so fast. And my worry is that we turn out students out of university that are not AI literate. How are they going to get a job? How can you go through university or even school and not come out AI literate? It's just, it's irresponsible. But we've still got this, oh, it's new, we can't let them do that. And my lesson plan I've been using for the last 20 years, and so I still want to use it again. So use AI, it's kind of like, because there is like homework Armageddon. It is kind of over. It's like we need to rethink how we do things. So it's a challenge. But the answer is not to say, well, no AI, no smartphones. Like, really? You want to handicap people? You want to shoot them in the foot? It's like, really? Is that what you want to do? And so that's my worry. And I see that in education. I see some businesses, don't know they want to use AI, because yes, there are issues around intellectual property, ownership, and it's a challenge. But there are so many potential benefits of this technology for human health, wealth, and happiness. It's like, well, it just, yeah. So, well, it does keep me up. This kind of like, we're going to turn the thing off or unplug it. It's like, really, you want to do it? You know, they're not going to do it elsewhere. China's not going to do it. Japanese not going to do it. India's not going to do it. It's like, well, really, we want to do this in Brexit land and EU and yeah. So that's my worry.
Yeah,
Turning it
fair
off.
enough. No,
Regulatory capture, I think they call it, and you kind of capture the big technology guys use regulation to stop innovation happening and having a flourishing innovation community saying only we're smart enough to be able to use this technology. It's too dangerous for you mere mortals. Say, well, really, you really want to put all your eggs in the basket of big government and big tech? It's like, not for me, at least.
No, not for me either. Agree with you. So if someone's thinking about getting into the field of cyber psychology, focusing on AI specifically, how do you think they should start building their skills and knowledge in this area?
Well, I think if they're still in education, I think learning how to use it and focusing on AI in elective topics for units, assignments. The thing is brand new, so it's just what a wonderful time to be in education, whether it's further or higher education, or even sort of primary, secondary education right now, because there's this brand new technology that is transforming how we understand and use and manage knowledge, and how we communicate knowledge, personalized tuition, etc. If you can focus your assignments on something that is related to AI. So, for example, I've got UAL, and so I've got one of my students is doing a really interesting dissertations about how do creatives feel about AI image generators and art generators, because somehow, they're working in business, and so understanding how they feel about it. Another is looking at bias that may or may not be built into, well, is built into human biases that are built into AI models, and whether or not it creates stereotypes, or there's a backlash effect. They so don't want to output stereotypes. They do, some of the madness that happened with Google's Gemini thing, where you had kind of black Nazis and things like that popping up because they were wanted to be so not caught out by being racist or stereotyping. So looking into that, and just looking at these kind of topics when you get out into the world of work. If you can come and say, well, look, I have some basic AI literacy, then that's the case. Now, probably this is going to go out on the internet, so I might actually lose my job over this. But I tell all my students that you cannot get a top grade unless you use AI for your assignments and your dissertations. It is a core skill. It's like basic arithmetic, basic numeracy, basic literacy. You need to be able to graduate or leave this place knowing how to master or use and understand this technology. So the shorthand is that experiment with it, use it as much as you can, and find a topic where you can apply it. Because when you get into the world of work, there's a whole generation of people who just like, I have no idea what's going on right now, but I know I need to use knowledge management technology, which what AI essentially is, or creative technology. I know I need to use this technology, but I have no idea. And you're one step ahead of the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's really good advice. So, Paul, coming to the end of our session, there's 3 standard questions I normally ask my guests at the end. And the first one is, what is the most important question I haven't asked you yet?
Oh, well, we kind of cover, yeah, so it's a good one. I was thinking about, because you were kind enough to send me that question before. So what's it? We've covered it. I think whether you're a psychologist or a non-psychologist, the back pocket insight that so the question is, what makes you happy? What makes your life worth living? What makes you feel that you are thriving and flourishing? And for me, the back pocket arc of happiness, autonomy, relatedness, and competence. If you're ever feeling down, think, well, is it like a sense of control? Do something that you have a sense of control over. Go play some sport, go for a walk, decide whether you want to go right or left. Relatedness, you don't have to have a sort of tete-a-tete with somebody. You can just be around other people, go and sit in a coffee shop. Or competence, we're all rubbish at a lot of things. There's 1 or 2 things we're actually not bad at. Do that. And that will boost your mood. And I think the question that doesn't get asked enough is, what makes you happy? And we know what humans are fabulous creatures. We're all fabulously individual, but we're built with the same wetware psychology. We all need this arc of happiness to thrive. And so, you're asking, what question haven't I asked? We've covered the topic, but it is that, okay, let's focus on the beauty, the good, see the beauty and the good in the world, and the things that make people happy and to thrive. And you find, just by focusing on the good in the world suddenly becomes a better place.
Yeah. I think that's also good advice for parents who are struggling a bit with their children, who are suffering slightly from anxiety or feeling a bit unhappy or spending too much time in front of a computer trying to do so, and they don't quite know how to get their child out. Is applying that same principles for their children or for their family, is find those things that make their child happy and help encourage them to do that, and encourage them in the community and relatedness, and finding those things they love and encouraging them to do that.
And there's a study came out just this week, sort of, how do you kind of influence a child as a parent? And it all sorts of intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, different interventions. Actually, money came out as a thing that mattered. Okay, we're kind of basic, and so, but taking that sort of motivating people with a reward. Say, if you take the displacement theory, which is really simple, it's saying that technology is not inherently bad, it's not evil, but actually the negative impact is indirect. It's because it takes you away from doing things that we know, that it displaces activities that we know are good for you. Then actually have a relationship. Yes, you can have your screen time, but go out only if you go out and play. You can have your game time online if you're out with other people. And so just that balance of it, and having a balanced relationship with technology, I think matters. And I think when I speak, I'm not a parent myself, but see lots of students growing up, and it's working that balance is and using incentives. So yeah, I'll do this, but so you do, but only if you do that. So online, offline behavior, and just be cognizant of the things that we know that promote well-being, your autonomy, relatedness, and competence, and just do more of those things and make sure screen time doesn't attack it. And so you get away from this really simplistic. So cell phones are bad, smartphones are bad, social media is bad, AI is bad. It's like, it's not going to get you very far, and most importantly, it's not going to make you happy.
Yeah. And as you say, focusing on the positive side of the balance, and what else could you do rather than don't too much screen time, get off your screen. It's kind of bringing that positive side of life into the equation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of psychologists I talk to very frustrated with media misinformation. So journalists taking snippets of academic findings and kind of skewing them and sensationalizing them to create clickbait and moral panics and negative social narratives around digital technology. Do you think they're getting better or worse at properly representing sound academic findings?
I don't have, I mean, I think this is a matter of fact rather than a matter of opinion. I don't have the facts, but I think from at least an overview perspective, what I see as turning into positive psychology, I see people becoming more literate and dismissing some of these things. I was literally on the way over on the Eurostar, and there was somebody just next to me with a friend saying, "Is that real or is that AI?" And so they're already asking these kind of these kind of questions. People are getting media literate to know that media, for the most part, is either directly or indirectly relating to capturing eyeballs, getting audiences, clickbait, etc. And people are aware of that, and so they discount it. And I think people are also becoming more aware that, you know, some people do choose to see the ugliness in the world, the disarray, and that there is a vested interest in media to actually focus on that, because we all, you know, sort of, if it bleeds, it leads. People have this negativity bias, and it panders to a fundamental human bias. Well, people are getting aware of that. So my view is that as media becomes more and more balkanized and more desperate, advertising supported media, or even media that isn't directly supported by advertising but still competing for audience, will get more extreme. And so we'll get more extreme clickbaity, extremist media as it just balkanizes, and we get different things to fit to pander to people's prejudices and ignorance. I think it's like to get more extreme, but on the positive side, I see people becoming so much more literal. So much literate, rather not literal, literate in about what's going on in the media. And hopefully I see the potential of positive psychology to help people choose to see the beauty in the world, to believe that there are things that are positive and are fabulous, and to look at what's right rather than what's wrong, look at pleasure points in life rather than pain points. I think if we can, you know, I think there's a huge opportunity for psychology, including psychology, to look at the good in the world, the positive in the world.
Yeah, I agree. I think we are generally becoming a lot more literate, media literate, and especially younger generations. They are questioning already. They're constantly going, well, is this real or is this not? And we know this is clickbait. We might choose to click on it, but we know it's clickbait.
Yeah. And we play a game. I mean, who really, yeah, so we play a game, and so it becomes performative, and you play a game whether you believe what, you know, you kind of discount what some politicians may say because they're politicians and that's part of it, but you still might follow it because it just becomes the circus of life. So I think people are smart, and, you know, it's always thinking of humans as vulnerable victims. It's like, yeah, yes, you can play that game if you like, but at least it's not for me. And I see good signs of people becoming more literate and critical, as you say, rightly say, on using critical thinking to discount some of this clickbait.
Final question is, do you have a particular favorite cyber psychology book that you normally recommend to people to read?
So I thought of this. I think that's with cyber psychology in the title, no. But I think with the William Gibson's books. William Gibson coined the term sort of fiction books. His series, he coined the term cyberspace, and it's still, you know, it's decades old. It's still a fabulous read. And so that, from a psychological perspective, without getting into the kind of the deep psychology of it, there's a guy called Gary Zico who wrote a book, Without Miracles, and basically he uses control theory, which cyber psychology comes from, and links it to Darwinian mechanisms. And for me, it was one of these whoa reads where you kind of just feel that it's like a universal acid. You read Without Miracles, which is about how we can be creative, how we can be conscious, and without miracles, having to invoke miracles, and it was just wonderful. And it uses some of the core principles of, you know, William Powers' sort of perceptual control theory around it. And for me, that was Absolutely fabulous. And so yeah, those two, Without Miracles, fabulous book. And then the final one again, which is not, you've asked me for one, I'm giving you three. So any cyberpunk thing from William Gibson, Without Miracles, Gary Zico, and then Darwin's Dangerous Idea, which is with Dan Dennett, who unfortunately psychologist who passed away recently. But using similar to the Without Miracles, actually takes some of the psychology of perceptual control theory and comes up with a model of consciousness. And you've also read about Consciousness Explained, but Darwin's Dangerous Idea is behind it. And it explains how technology is what he calls it an extended phenotype. It's part of human. And actually saying that there is a divide between humans and technology is false. It's like a part of a bird is the nest that it creates. It's extended part of humanity. And it's just a really nice way of framing, saying there's humans and there's technology. We are technology. And in that, throwing in a theory of human consciousness, which for my money is, whilst everybody's trying to create artificial intelligence, what I'm trying to do with my new startup called SynthSight is actually create artificial consciousness. Actually, how can we use Dan Dennett's theories of human consciousness, which is a model of it's basically a Darwinian model of consciousness. How can we apply those principles to actually create artificial consciousness, to create really conscious, sentient individuals that are as conscious and sentient as humans? So those three books: Darwin's Dangerous Idea, Without Miracles, and then anything that's written by William Gibson, who coined the term cyberspace, which is a huge exploration into online, offline behavior and how it interacts.
I've got some books to read.
It
just cost
you
me a
asked
lot
for one,
of money,
I gave you
Paul.
three. I do apologize. I should just say one, Paul.
No, it's great. I love this because a lot of us kind of automatically go to more academic books around cyber psychology, but actually it's the principles behind it which are so much more important to a large extent of why and what are those inherent human things around consciousness, as you say, and why we do this, and how technology is an extension of self, not separate to self. So thank you for that. I've got some reading to do. Thanks. Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining me on Confessions of a Cyber Psychologist. It's just been so great to catch up with you and chat, and I really hope we get to catch up and that you come back on board again in another time.
I'd love to. I'll come back with perhaps one of my AIs, and we'll have a chat with them. So
yay! Yes, please.
Absolutely, thanks very much. Sorry, I talked a lot. I do apologize, but it's such an exciting time to be a cyber psychologist. We're living through an era, but what a time to be alive right now, where we've got this new smart technology. It's just wow. It's just such a gift to be alive right now and to live and actually research this whilst it's happening. So good time to be a cyber psychologist.
Exactly. I often talk to people about it. It feels like you're doing footprints in the snow.
Yeah, 100%. That's lovely. I'm going to steal that as well.
Yeah, you're welcome.